Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Unbalanced with me, Kara Savage. How are we? I've really missed doing solo episodes. I've been a little bit AWOL the past month or two. We are due a big catch up. I have been through a few life changes recently, and if I'm completely honest, I just couldn't do a solo episode last month. I'll get into why, but I was very lucky that I had some episodes already recorded with some amazing guests that I was really excited to get out and just share with you guys. So they have been taking the limelight while I've been taking some much needed time away from doing a solo episode, mostly because I just didn't want to be in the wrong mindset, in the wrong headspace. I think I'd rather put out interview episodes and miss out on a solo episode or two than just power through and do a solo episode but it's not very good, or I don't feel like it's up to scratch, up to the best quality. But we are back. I'm so excited. It is April now, which is just crazy. Like, time really, really flies. But that means that the clocks have turned back. Or gone forward, yeah, spring forward, isn't it? Fall back, spring forward. The clocks have gone forward, which means it's lighter in the mornings, it's lighter in the evenings, and it's just been so nice to feel that shift. I think in going from winter to spring, it's just been just what I needed for my mental health, I think. But as you can see from the setup here, I've got my mini eggs back on my little coffee table, and I'm wearing something to honour the spring, which is my pink jumper with giant daisies on the front. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm obsessed with this jumper. I wear it all the time. I've had a lot of questions asking where it's from on my TikTok and things, but I got it from a market stall at Notting Hill, in Portobello Road Market. So if you guys happen to find a similar one, then be my guest and come match with me. But I saw it and I thought, this is just so me and so unbalanced as well, because I don't know if you guys notice, but I try to stay on brand and wear unbalanced colours when I do these episodes, just as a little nod to the branding. But anyway, I've had this jumper in mind to do an episode in the spring since I bought it last summer, so the jumper's finally out. It's a big moment. You guys deserve an explanation as to where I've been, and if I'm completely honest, I have been quite burnt out recently, and this may not come as much of a surprise to a lot of you, because I'm pretty sure every episode I begin with saying how busy I am, or how stressed I've been, or how I basically just don't stop, and it's caught up with me. I was feeling quite burnt out just before Christmas, and I thought that the Christmas break would sort me out, it would give me a little reset, but actually Christmas is quite a busy time, catching up with family, seeing all the different people you haven't seen since the Christmas before then. So I didn't actually get that much of a chance to relax. And before I knew it, I was back working from January. And I think that kind of time, it made me realise that I'm maybe not enjoying my job as much as I thought I was. And don't get me wrong, it was a great place to work, and everyone there is so lovely, and it was just, I will miss that place so much. But obviously you guys can tell, talking in the past tense, I've quit that job now. I think it was getting to the point where if I was looking at my schedule from day to day, if I was looking at what my life looked like from week to week, it probably wasn't very good in terms of balance. My job was working at the BBC, in the newsroom, and working in news is quite high pressure because you need to turn stories around every day. The deadline is always the end of the day. So that means a lot of late shifts. It means a lot of working overtime to just get that story out, get that video out. And as much as I really enjoyed that, and I've learnt so much in the past year and a half of working at the BBC and working in news, I knew that it wasn't a long-term goal for me. I think if you want to work in that kind of environment, you have to know 100% that you want to be in that field. You want to be in journalism, you want to be a journalist, you want to work in the BBC. I think working there, you have to be really passionate about it and really proud to work there and proud of your job. And it was just getting to the point where I realised that that's not what I wanted to do. It didn't have much longevity for me. And I remember when I first got the job, I was self-employed, I was freelance, unemployed, whatever you want to say. I was in between things and doing a lot of little projects, and I was looking for something that was permanent. And I went for that job, and I was so happy I got that job, because it is an amazing place to work. The BBC is really, really difficult to get in. So I obviously have to recognise that and recognise how privileged I was to get in the first place. And because I speak Welsh, I guess that was a good kind of like head start for me. Being fluent in the Welsh language really opens up some doors when it comes to finding jobs, and this role that I went into was a Welsh speaking role, and I've only ever done Welsh speaking jobs, like jobs where Welsh is like the dominant language. So anyway, I thought it was about time to make a little change, just to look around and see if there were any other jobs that could be a bit more flexible. I think I was really struggling with having to be in the office every single day, especially when the shifts were so late as well. So sometimes I would work really late into the evening, and I, as you guys know, I'm quite a productive person. I like to get things done around my work hours, and I would come back from a late shift and then I would just edit my podcast until like almost midnight, and then I'd just go to bed, and then I'd struggle to sleep. But I was still determined to do the podcast at the same time. Obviously my editor Alex has been just incredible with helping me get these interview episodes out. Without him, I would have struggled even more than I actually did to turn around these episodes. So I am really grateful to Alex as always. I realised that I needed a change, and obviously I work in social media, I work in digital content creation, and I wanted to find a job that was a bit more focused on that and not as much in journalism. So I ended up finding a job working for an education company that is in digital communications and kind of social media. So it's a lot more what I want to do, whilst also giving me the flexibility to work from home if I need to work whatever hours I want to. It's just a lot more flexible. I think as well with this podcast and my content creation, it's growing so much, thanks to you guys for your support as always. It's growing so much to the point where brands and charities and organisations want to work with me. But if you work for the BBC, you aren't really allowed to work with any other company or charity or anything. Because obviously as a journalist I was impartial. I wasn't allowed to be biased or share my opinion or anything. It's kind of strict, but it makes sense at the same time, obviously. So that's why I think to work at the BBC and to be a journalist, that has to be your main thing. Whereas obviously my podcast is a huge part of my life now, and I want to be able to branch out and work with different charities and connect with more communities and raise awareness in that way. And this new job will allow me to do that as well, and so it'll give me the flexibility to work on my own social media creation and this podcast as well, which obviously is my main thing in my life now. It's crazy because obviously Unbalanced started as a little hobby, a little side like project in my spare time, but it's grown so much that I'm actually seeing quite a bright future with it, which is just incredible. I never would have thought this, but I thought it was time to take these steps. Since basically before Christmas, I was on the edge of burnout, and I think it really hit me this winter. And so I changed jobs in March, right at the end of March, just before Easter. And I just needed a few weeks to settle into the role, to find my feet, and to just be able to focus on that first before returning to the podcast and sharing this with you guys. So I'm in a new job now. Everyone is so lovely once again, and I'm very fortunate to be in this role. It's not easy to find jobs, and obviously my last episode was all about navigating the working life and the working world with a disability, and I have to say that I'm really looked after in this job as well, which is really important. I think it's important to find a job and a career in an environment that will support you as well and support your needs. So yeah, that's where I've been. In terms of how I'm feeling mentally, I think we're getting there. I'm definitely feeling a bit of a weight off my shoulders now in terms of the pace of my work, but I think, I'm still mentally quite busy. I've still got a lot of little projects going on, lots of exciting things coming up with the podcast and with other little things that you will find out about very soon, but I can't say just yet. So definitely stay tuned. Hopefully this will help me mentally in terms of just being a bit more present in everything that I do and not feeling like I'm about to burn out every time. I've just released a vlog as well on YouTube. If you haven't watched that, I'd really recommend it because it's just a really nice way of catching up with you guys kind of more informally outside of this podcast. My home has been through a few changes. I don't know if you guys will notice, but the wall behind me has been painted and it's a slightly lighter colour. But because the sun is really out today, as you can see from the reflection on my clothes, I've had to close the curtains a little bit. So the wall behind me isn't quite as bright as it usually is. But obviously we had a massive leak in our home 6 months ago now. It was just after we got engaged and we came back from our holiday and we came back to an absolute nightmare in our home. And a lot of the floors needed to be stripped and the walls, and the kitchen was just a mess, and the bathroom. Anyway, that's finally behind us now. It's finally been sorted and we're so grateful to our decorator. His patience has been just amazing and he's just given our home the refresh that we needed. So I did document that on the vlog and also just got to catch up with you guys. Today I just feel like being chatty. I don't want to get deep into a topic. I'm going to do a part 2 of the working topic that I started in my last solo episode, and that got some really good feedback. I think a lot of people can relate to it. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about navigating the work life with a disability. And I want to get deeper about balancing work and life because it's something that I'm navigating as we speak. But I think for now, I just want to have a massive catch up. I've been getting a lot of questions about different parts of my life recently on social media, and I thought I would just answer them all in one big episode. It's been a while since we've done a Q&A. So I think this is Q&A number 3, and I've had a lot of different questions that I think we can just go through today and catch up properly. And I think I love listening to episodes where you can get to know the host a little bit more. So if you are new here to Unbalanced, then this might be a good way of getting to know each other as well. I put up a question box on Instagram for people to ask their questions, but I've also saved some questions that I've been asked previously as well, just so that I can answer everything in one episode. But annoyingly, my Instagram has stopped working, so bear with me. Okay, so the first question I'm going to answer is, how do you get into disability and chronic illness advocacy as a job? Now, I don't know if this person is assuming that this is what I do. Obviously, I do it as kind of like a part-time, like side thing through my podcast and through working with other charities on social media. That's what I do. I just reach out to the charities. Some charities reach out to me because I do content creation. They want to work with me to raise awareness of their own charities, and I'm all for helping the community and bringing resources to the community where they need it. So that's kind of what I do, but I reckon if you do want to work with charities a lot closer and be a part of their team, definitely reach out to whatever charity you want to. Reach out to people on Instagram, find their emails, email them, just be really annoying and really get your name out there. And charities, brands, companies will remember your name if you pester them enough to want to be a part of their advocacy work. So send out like a batch of emails to all the different companies and charities you want to work with, whatever that looks like, and just see what happens and go from there. But in terms of doing your own thing, I think there's always room to do some advocacy and raise awareness for different disabilities and chronic illnesses. So just set up a camera, set up your phone, start talking about your experiences if you're comfortable, and just start sharing your story on social media, and people will find you. Your content will eventually reach the right people. And I could go into working in social media, and that could be a whole other topic. If you guys want to know more about my work in social media and my own journey doing disability advocacy on social media, I could probably talk about that for a while. So let me know if you do want a separate episode for that. But that is definitely where I would start. Just start posting, start sharing your story, and people will eventually find you. Someone said, how do you find guests for your podcast and what kind of things do you hope to get out of it? So in terms of guests, usually I would do a lot of scrolling and stalking on social media. If I come across someone that I really like the vibe of and I kind of want to get to know their story more, I would reach out to them. The only thing is, if they're quite well known, if they're like famous or they've got quite a big following, my DMs will most likely just get lost in their other sea of DMs. By DM, I mean direct message, obviously. So I would maybe email them if they've got an email in their bio. If they've got like an agent, I would email their agent. A lot of people ask how Tasha Guri came on my podcast, and she's probably one of the most well-known guests I've had on my podcast so far. And I had actually messaged her, I'd say a year before she ended up on my podcast, a year and a half maybe. But she just released a book, and I posted a story of me reading the book, or just a picture of the book, on my Instagram story and tagged her, and she swiped up on my story. She replied to the story saying, I hope you're loving the book. And I said, yes, I am. I'm loving it and I'd love to have you on the podcast. And she replied saying, oh my goodness, absolutely, I'd love that. So that's kind of how we organised it, and I ended up kind of booking the date and all the details with her agent, but it wasn't until she actually DM'd me personally that we got the ball rolling, because I had emailed her agent about a year and a half before. So never give up. But in terms of other guests, obviously I don't just go for well-known people. I want to give ordinary people like me the mic and a chance to share their story, just give them a platform to share their story. I get a lot of requests to be on the podcast, which is just crazy to think that like there's a queue, there's like a waiting list of people who want to come on my podcast. So I set up like a Google form. The link is in my bio if you guys want to be a guest on the podcast one day. So a lot of people do reach out to me as well. So it's a mix of me finding people online, or through meeting people in person and maybe finding a scope to be on my podcast that way, or I get a lot of people messaging me as well to be guests. So it's kind of a mix of both, I'd say. And what kind of things do I hope to get out of it? Well, I just hope to share different stories, share different perspectives. That's what I love about this podcast, is the chance to educate other people and educate myself in terms of just disability awareness in general. I've learned so much from other guests, and so what I hope to get out of it is not only to give them a platform to share their story, but to educate the audience and myself in the meantime. Someone said, who's your dream guest for your podcast? And I mean, I've spoken about her before, but I would love to have Becky XL on the podcast. As a celiac and obviously a gluten-free girly, I love Becky XL and the work she does to not only raise awareness but create some incredible recipes. And I'm not a cook, I'm not a baker, but I've learned so much from her, and her recipes will always be my go-to until I die. So I would love to have her on the podcast to share her story and just to get to know her a bit more. I think she's just so cool as well. But if you guys know of any other people that I should have on my podcast, like quite well-known people, please let me know, because I'm always open to finding new people for the podcast and to try and connect with people outside of just who I happen to come across or people that I know. This kind of ties into the last episode that I did about the working world, but someone said, what's your biggest advice for entering the working world with a chronic illness? I'm about to graduate uni, so it's scary. Oh, bless you. Oh, that's so exciting. And congratulations for graduating when the time comes. Obviously I've dedicated my last solo episode all about this subject, so I would definitely check that one out. But in short, I would say to advocate for yourself. That's the most important thing. Other people won't know what your needs are unless you let them know about it, unless you voice your needs. So if you want to make your transition into the working world easy for yourself, try to learn to be open about your needs, about your chronic illness. You don't have to, trauma dump. You don't have to share every little detail about your disability, just enough for people to understand you and for that barrier to kind of disappear, hopefully over time. They can get to know you more and what your needs are. I think that will be really important for you to just let other people know how they can help you, and then that will just make life so much easier. And trust me, they won't see you for your disability. I think it's scary to open up about your disability to people because you think that that's how they'll see you. But trust me, I've just started a new job. I've had to voice my needs to a lot of my colleagues. And actually, within 2 weeks of starting my new job, I fell over in front of a lot of people, a lot of new colleagues that I hadn't yet met. And I was actually carrying my laptop and I ended up breaking my laptop. I know, it's awful, really, really bad, and I feel terrible. But everyone just wanted to help me. I obviously needed people to lift me up again, so I had to quickly explain to like the crowd of people that came over to me to try and help me that I needed them to lift me up, that I was dead weight to lift me all the way up to standing. But that has now let a lot of my team know that if I do fall, which will happen again, that's how they can help me. So it was definitely really scary falling in front of new colleagues, and I didn't want people to see me for that. But actually, I decided to brush it off. It's all about mentality as well. I try not to deep it too much. Like, okay, I fell, it happened. And if that does happen to you, I promise it will be okay. I'm really glad I didn't go into this job thinking, oh, I really hope I don't fall in front of my colleagues. Because if I'd worried about that, then when it actually happened, I would have gotten really upset. But I try not to imagine fake scenarios. I try not to worry about how things could go wrong, because it could go wrong, but the chances are, even if the worst case scenario happened and you fell in front of colleagues, it will actually be fine. The worst thing that's come out of it is that I've got a really bad back now because of it, but that will go away. That's my own thing that I'll just need to rest and recover and let that go away. But my relationship with my colleagues is still the same. If anything, they're just going to look out for me more, which is a good thing. Sorry, that was a bit of a rambly one, but I think I needed to share that just to hopefully make other people feel a bit better about these scenarios, because they can happen and it could suck and you could get really upset, or you could just brush it away and move on and just focus on your work, and hopefully that mentality will keep you stronger. Someone said, what's the best thing about having LGMD? Oh, it's a lovely question, because having LGMD sucks. It's a horrible thing, and obviously there's a lot of bad things about having LGMD, so I think that's why it's really nice that we got this question, which is, what is a good thing that comes with having LGMD? I would definitely say the community. The community is just amazing. I love meeting new people anyway, but to meet people that actually gets it, that goes through the exact same things as you, is just really cool. And I think when I first started meeting people in the community, I thought, well, I'd rather, as nice as it is to meet other people with LGMD, I'd rather not know these people if it means that I don't have LGMD. But now I think I've formed such strong bonds in the community. Like, I'm actually so grateful to know these people and to have them as friends. We've not just bonded over having LGMD, but I've actually made some really good friends outside of that LGMD bubble. So it has led me to some incredible friends, and it's also led me to some amazing experiences that I never would have dreamed of if I didn't have LGMD. Like, obviously recently I went to Lisbon. I've got some other trips coming up that I wouldn't have if I didn't have LGMD. So even though it restricts me in a lot of ways, it's actually opened up a lot of experiences for me that I never would have dreamed of, including this podcast, which is obviously the best thing. Someone said, how do I deal with opening up about using mobility aids? Whoa, this is a big question, and is actually something that I think is really important to talk about, because when I first started using mobility aids, I hated it. I was so ashamed, and I think we all have that bit of internal ableism when it comes to using mobility aids for the first time. We connect them with old people, people that have like maybe broken bones temporarily and needed like a wheelchair or crutches temporarily, but then they'll get better. And the worst thing about using mobility aids for me is having people come up to me and asking what happened as if it was just an accident and that I'll get better. And the worst thing you can say to people if you see them using mobility aids is, oh, what happened? Or, oh, get well soon. Because no, it's a lifelong thing. I will be using these mobility aids until the day I die. And thanks for your concern, but actually I won't get better. So please don't say that. So yeah, I think a lot of it is not just using mobility aids, but like the mentality that comes with it and society's mentality, because I think you still get pitied even to this day, and seeing so many other people with mobility aids going out there and just crushing it, absolutely like living life to the full, doing some amazing things, being really talented and just smashing it. People still pity them because they use mobility aids. There's a long way to go in terms of the mentality around mobility aids. I held off from using mobility aids for a while, probably more than I should have, because I probably should have started using mobility aids a lot sooner. But I'm glad I've leaned into them now. You know, I could have waited a lot longer, and I do get a lot of people older than me saying, oh, I wish I leaned into using mobility aids when I was your age, as young as you are. But it gives me so much freedom. And I think a lot of us see using mobility aids as admitting defeat and thinking, okay, well, once I start using a wheelchair, then that just means I've given up. No, not at all. That is not the mentality we should be using. It's actually, it opens up a wider world for us. I can't go on walks for very long. And if I do go on walks with people, I feel like an inconvenience because I always need to sit down, I always need to take breaks, or we just need to turn back and cut the walk short and just go home because I'm too tired. But if I'm in a wheelchair, I'm not restricted. I can go as far as I want to. My friends can keep walking and they don't need to keep taking breaks, and I can just roll alongside them and still enjoy it without tiring myself out. So if you see it that way, it brings freedom. And it just means you can live your life to the full. It really expands your world. And I know a lot of people within the LGMD community that have recently leaned into using mobility aids. And I'm seeing them like traveling the world now. It's amazing. Where before they used mobility aids, they could barely leave the house. So we really need to change our mindset around this as a disability community, but also as society. And if you see me in a wheelchair out and about or using a walking stick, it doesn't mean that, I mean, obviously it means that I'm getting worse. Obviously it means I've progressed. So maybe there's a way to feel bad for me in that way, but please don't pity me. Please don't feel bad for me. It just means that I've actually listened to my body and I'm giving my body what it needs. I'm not forcing my body to overdo it. I'm not putting myself through any pain. It means I can relax. My energy will last longer and I can just last so much better throughout the day. So let's just ingrain this into our minds that mobility aids don't restrict us. It gives us freedom, and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to be pitied. And if other people want to question that, then that's completely on them. And that's your chance to maybe educate them if you want to. Obviously, it's not your job to educate people, but I like to use it as that. Like if people say, what happened? Or what's wrong? Like, oh, did something happen? Like, did you get in an accident? And I still get that all the time. You know, if I request assistance on public transport, people are like, oh, what happened? Like, did you get in an accident? I'm like, no, what happened was I was born with a genetic condition with a rare disease that will just get worse as I get older. And then that's usually when they'll shut up. But I think I don't mind using that and being that representation. If people stare at me using a wheelchair out and about, I don't mind that because I'm being that representation. It's kind of like exposure therapy, isn't it? For people who may not see young people using mobility aids, seeing them out and about and being that person out in the wild using a wheelchair will just be one more bit of representation for other people. I don't know if that makes sense, but that is my mentality around it. I'm so determined to prove that mobility aids aren't a thing to be pitied. It's a thing to celebrate. Like, yes, you have decided to listen to your body. You've decided to push past that, like that inner ableism that's kind of ingrained in us since we're young. that it's not something to be ashamed of. Like, I'm so proud of anyone who decides to use their mobility aids, because it will just give them freedom, and just inevitably they'll just be better off with them. So yeah, that's my thing. It is really a mindset thing. So once we decide to push past our stubbornness, and I'm very, very stubborn, and I'm still working on that to this day. I'm not saying that my relationship with my mobility aids is perfect. Guaranteed I will still feel a little bit of shame and embarrassment when I go out, but I choose to ignore those feelings. And that's on period, and we're going to move on to the next question. Probably half the questions I've been asked are about my wedding and the wedding planning. When is the wedding? How's the wedding planning going? So of course I need to fill you in on the details, because I haven't really spoken much about it. Obviously I announced our engagement, which is now over 6 months ago. Can you believe it? Time really flies. And I still catch myself just staring at my ring like I can't believe it. But we are getting married in a year. So it's April 2027 that we're getting married. We've got a venue, and it is incredible. The venue does have a few steps, but they can make it completely accessible for me, which was obviously a big thing we had to consider when we were venue shopping. Obviously it's still a year away, so we haven't done loads in terms of planning, but we've got the guest list, we've got the venue, we've got the date, and those are the important things to start off. I've actually already got my wedding dress as well, and I know a lot of people share pictures of them in wedding dresses that they didn't end up going for, but I won't be sharing anything about any wedding dress until after we get married, because I don't want any pictures of me in wedding dresses out on the internet at all. Like, it's just a weird concept, me being in a wedding dress to begin with, and I don't want to ruin that illusion at all by posting pictures of ones that I almost chose but didn't. I don't want to ruin that illusion at all, especially for Tristan, because it's all going to be a big surprise for him. It's a big secret. He doesn't know what the dress is. He doesn't know what it looks like. The dress is safely with my parents, and I don't really need to think about that for another few months until we get it altered. So I'm very happy to have chosen my dream dress. It's just, I can't wait. I'm so happy with it. We've booked like a couple of things to do with the wedding, but we honestly haven't done that much yet. And I'm sure we'll get more into wedding planning at some point, especially having to consider my disability as a part of it. So if you guys do want an episode, I don't know, about the wedding, or with Tristan even, I mean, I know that's a very highly requested episode anyway, and we may be working on something, but yeah, let me know if you do want to know more about that when the time comes. Obviously I don't really have much information for you now. We've got less than a year now, so I'm sure that year will fly by, and I'm sure I'll get more and more stressed as the year goes on, but I'm just glad that at least I've changed jobs, because that was like one big thing I wanted to do this year. I could ease my mind in that aspect of my life. So now I can focus more on wedding planning, which is really exciting. Someone said, how do you stay up to date with LGMD and understanding it? How would you explain it? Ooh, how would I explain LGMD? Well, in simple terms, for people who have maybe just come across LGMD, I would say that it is a muscle wasting condition. It affects the limb girdle muscles, which are the shoulder muscles, the hip muscles, the leg, like top half of the legs, those kind of muscles. I do find some of my other muscles affected as well, like my hands, even my tongue. I think a lot of other muscles do get affected, even though they're not directly affected by the gene defect, and those muscles aren't muscle wasting. They kind of take on the baggage at the same time. For example, my back muscles are affected because my hip muscles are so weak that when I walk with a waddling gait and my back arches. So my back muscles really compensate for the lack of strength in my hips. So I think it does really affect all of my muscles in different ways, whether they're muscle wasting directly or whether they're just overcompensating for those weak muscles that are muscle wasting. It's a progressive condition, which means that my muscles will keep weakening over time. There really isn't a timeline for it. I think LGMD affects everyone so differently, and because it's such a rare condition, You can't really compare yourself with other people because everyone's timeline seems to be so different with it. So for me, it's just a case of taking it day by day and trying to do as much as I can without overdoing it, really finding that good kind of in between, that good balance, if you will. How do I stay up to date with LGMD? I follow charities that are LGMD specific, so big ones like the Speak Foundation, which was the first ever LGMD charity, Cure LGMD2I, who are the charity for my specific condition, which is LGMD2I R9. What else? Muscular Dystrophy UK, obviously the biggest muscular dystrophy charity in the UK. You've also got other charities and information websites like Muscular Dystrophy News Today, BridgeBio, Bio News Rare on Instagram. There's a lot of resources out there now. The Speak Foundation release a magazine every term, I think, called the LGMD News Magazine. That's got loads of information, like up-to-date information about clinical trials, about research that is being done into our conditions and into treatments, patient stories, getting to hear more from our community. So I would definitely say that is a big resource that I'm really grateful for. And it just doesn't feel like it's such a rare condition anymore because there's so many of us and so many people are sharing their stories and there's so many resources now, which is just amazing. I know a lot of webinars are being hosted by different members of the community or different scientists. So I definitely keep an eye on these charities that I've named. I keep an eye on their social media and their website and their Facebooks and things like that, just to keep up to date with it. I think that is definitely how I keep up to date with the ever-changing world of LGMD. Oh, I still have quite a few questions to go through, but I might have to just do one more and just do another Q&A another time. But thank you guys so much for all your questions. Like, I really do appreciate you guys taking the time. But I'm going to end with a lovely question. What are you most looking forward to in 2026? That's a very nice question to end. I've got a few exciting things that I can't quite let you know about yet, but I'm really, really excited to tell you, and promise me you will stay tuned. Please follow the podcast, press the bell notification so that you don't miss an episode. Follow me on social media, Keris Davidge and Unbalanced Podcast. Once this big thing is out, once this news is out, it's going to be huge, and I need you guys' support. I need you guys to follow along, and you don't want to miss it. So in the meantime, I have got a conference in Denmark, the second ever European LGMD2I conference. The first one was in Amsterdam 2 years ago, and this one is in Denmark, not far from Copenhagen. So very excited about that. I'll be leading a session there and also hopefully exploring a bit of Copenhagen, which I've never been to before, and it was a bucket list place for me to visit, so I'm very excited about that. I'm also going to be attending the Iowa conference this year, the Dystoglycanopathy conference in Iowa, so that's also for LGMD2I. I'll obviously be vlogging Denmark and Iowa. I've got hopefully I'll be recording a very special podcast episode out in Iowa that I'm very, very excited for, and just getting to meet more of the community in America, which will be so much fun. If you guys are going to Iowa, please come and say hi. Like, I'm so excited to meet more of you guys. I'm going to the Belgian Grand Prix in July, which will be really cool. I've never been to a Grand Prix before. Tristan is a massive Formula One fan, and I surprised him with a trip to Belgium for the Grand Prix for his birthday last year. So the trip will be coming up very soon, and I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited to go and see Harry Styles in June for the 6th time. I know I'm a bit of a super fan, and I'm going to see Ariana Grande in August, at the end of August. My 2 favourite artists in 1 year. What a treat. Those are the things I'm most excited for, but also just hopefully having a lovely summer with my family, my friends, and now that I've got this new job and a new kind of balance in life, hopefully I'll be able to enjoy my life a little bit more and have a bit more chance to rest and more time to focus on myself as well, which I've been lacking, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Just having a bit more me time. But obviously we'll be busy towards the end of the year with wedding prep and hen do prep and things like that. But I've got a lot of really exciting vlogs and content due out over the summer, so you guys better stay tuned for that. You better subscribe on YouTube, because I don't want you guys to miss out on the really exciting content that's going to come out soon. That's probably what I'm looking forward to most, but also just releasing these episodes for you is just one of my favourite things in the world. I love interviewing new people. I've got some really cool guests coming up. I hope you enjoyed the last run of interviews whilst I've been away. You guys can catch up with those anytime you want to, and I've got some very cool guests coming up soon anyway, so you don't want to miss those either. So please make sure that you are following the podcast and that you like this episode if you're watching it on YouTube. I've been nominated for a National Diversity Award again this year, which I'm very, very grateful for. It's for the positive role model in the disability category. So if you do want to vote for me, just take 1 minute out of your day, just click the link in the description and just vote for me. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you to Cure LGMD2I and BridgeBio for sponsoring this podcast. I'll speak to you guys soon. Bye.